All right. Senator Nielsen, I know you had some comments.
Well, Chairman Walken, colleagues, this is an extraordinarily important issue. And not only do I share concerns with the legislative analyst, but we've inquired of legislative counsel as well and have asked the legislative counsel, because we're embarking on a very significant direction here that affects California as far out as 2050, not just next year's budget. The questions we've inquired of legislative counsel: does the governor or the Air Resources Board have the authority to establish greenhouse gas emission until a limit below the 1990 level that would be applicable beyond 2020? Answer: no. Can the cap and trade program be applied or used beyond December 31st, 2020? Answer: no. Can the Air Resources Board increase the cost of implementation of the fee in order to achieve a statewide emission limit that is below the 1990 level that would be applicable after 2020? Answer: no. And has there been any statutory extension? Answer: no. Such legislation was not passed last year. Back to the Legislative Council opinion, and I'm going to read it, a couple of them in entirety, and it's not lengthy. I won't bore you too much. In fact, I think it's most sobering, and it should be governing where the budget proceeds. Therefore, it is our opinion that the governor may issue executive orders to direct and guide subordinate executive orders in the enforcement of a particular law, but such orders may not contravene or enlarge a statute. Statute controls. And again, that's ledge analyst, to your point. We think the determination of a standard for the statute for the statewide greenhouse gas emissions limit is a fundamental policy decision that only the legislature can make. Sure. And consequently, it's our opinion that the Act does not authorize the governor or ARB to establish a greenhouse gas emissions limit that is below the 1990 level and that would be applicable after 2020. I would argue, were we to proceed with this budget, we're embarking on very dangerous ground and under the color of great legal vulnerability. And I'd argue further, were we to proceed with trailer bills, that's also very risky business. These should be strictly statutory. Trailer bills are a perversion of budget policy, and not budget policy, but legislative process. These issues should be dealt with thoroughly and in depth in policy committee hearings and in fiscal hearings, not dealt with major, historic, hugely significant policy considerations. So I just have to put that on the record as we proceed with all discussions related to this issue. But I think the analysts' concerns and the counsel's opinions here really have to govern and be sobering as we proceed.
Thank you, Senator Nielsen. Senator Pavley, did you want to our staff recommendation is to approve as proposed. These are disagreements that we have in the legislature with our colleagues on the basis of the program and on how we fund them. And we acknowledge that. So the staff recommendation is, and my recommendation, I agree, to approve as proposed with the trailer bill language, which would be contingent on the passage of the statute, to include short-lived climate pollutants in the regulatory approach to reducing greenhouse gas emissions. And as part of that, we want to continue to hold open all GGRF-funded proposals for the May revise, including the proposed wood smoke grant program. So we're going to hold that open. All right. Public comment.
Yes, thank you very much, Madam Chair and Senators. Bill McGavin with the Coalition for Clean Air. We support ARB's budget request for the short-lived climate pollutants, or super pollutants as they're sometimes called. These are very important from a climate perspective. Many of them also are hazardous to local air quality, and ARB has had the authority to address these pollutants for many years, and in fact had it before SB 605, which we worked on extensively 2 years ago and supported strongly. That bill gave a deadline and a legislative mandate, but ARB already had the authority to address these pollutants, and we think it's essential that that work move forward quickly.
Okay, thank you. Next, please.
Thank you, Michael Shaw, California Manufacturers Technology Association. And specific to the short-lived climate pollutant issue, we would agree with Senator Nielsen that this is clear, legislative analysts, Counsel, that this issue is not something that the ARB currently has the authority to pursue. SB 605 called for the study. The study in development of strategy is in progress. That hasn't been completed yet unless until such time that is done. The legislature needs to really take a step back on this and look at that strategy when it is ultimately delivered, and then make a decision about where to go from here. Senator Lara also has legislation on this that looks to imposing a strategy again, imposing the strategy developed by ARB. Again, you know, the legislature, Senate in particular, should look at that issue, the study when it comes out, the strategy when it comes out from ARB, before moving forward. And at this point in time, you know, we don't believe that the authority exists to do that. And that that should not be approved to go forward. On the GGRF expenditures, you know, we would agree keeping that open. There is open discussion going on regarding that. Of course, you know, what goes beyond 2020 is a question that still needs to be resolved by this legislature, as the authority under AB 32 essentially runs up to 2020. And beyond that, we don't have existing statutory authority to proceed.
Okay, thank you. Next, please.
Teresa Bowie with Californians Against Waste. We're supportive of budget staff's recommendation under the SLCP, and we want to concur with my colleague from Coalition for Clean Air. It is imperative that we take swift action on these super pollutants because reductions now have a much greater impact than reductions in the future. Thank you so much.
Next, please. Welcome.
Gene Urban on behalf of Waste Management. I agree with the LAO and Senator Nielsen. This is not a matter of clarification. This is a matter of granting authority to CARB that may not now exist. Let me take just a second on behalf of Waste Management. In 2014, Senator Woke and Senator Pavley supported a bill that required a 50% reduction of organics from landfills by 2020. The CARB report says elimination of organics from landfills by 2025. They're inconsistent. They're incompatible. This trailer bill will not make any effort to integrate the two. Who's in charge, CalRecycle or CARB? Which prevails? The 2014 statute that is now being implemented, or this new one that no one has seen? It's a much more complicated and complex question than a mere matter of clarification that should be done in a budget trailer bill. We would urge you to hold this matter open and defer to the Lara bill.
We're going to make it contingent. Yes.
Chairwoman Cynthia Corey, California Farm Bureau. We concur with LAO, and we believe the authority does not exist, and we ask that you leave this open. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, please.
Yes, my name is Alan Abbs. I'm the Executive Director for the California Air Pollution Control Officers Association, representing the 35 local air districts in California. And I'm here to support the Governor's budget proposal for $40 million for a wood smoke reduction program. Air districts have been operating programs like this with minimal funding but tremendous success over the past 10 to 15 years. And with the Governor's budget proposal, we could almost instantaneously have programs in place in replacing wood stoves before folks start using them this fall for their heating needs. They provide, not only would it provide benefits to urban areas, but also to rural areas, to low-income areas, and to disadvantaged communities. It provides a reduction in black carbon, which is identified in the short-lived climate pollutant strategy, and it also provides immediate public health benefits in terms of lower particulate matter. And so I encourage you to support that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next, please. Welcome.
Larry Green with Sacramento Air District, with parts of Senator Walk and Senator Nelson's districts. We strongly support this proposal for the $40 million for wood stove programs. These programs are in place now and can be quickly receive money. We can use those in your district. We get good greenhouse gas reductions and excellent for black carbon and methane, as well as good criteria pollutant productions. These support both rural and urban areas in California. Handout number 1. This handout shows the program that we have in Sacramento District, and we've had that for 10 years. We have replaced about 6,000 stoves. We estimate there's about 200,000 devices in our district, although a lot of those aren't used on a regular basis. You can see on the next chart the success that we've had. My district board implemented an episodic control program in 2006 and 2007, and they also had an incentive program at that time. We went dramatically down from that time and have actually met the PM 2.5 standard. We're on the cusp of meeting that in Sacramento. So,
thank you.
This shows you what it looks like out in the community. This is Stockton Boulevard. This is in 2012, and that's what a filter looks like for 24 hours. So we encourage you to support this program. We can really take that money and put it in use in your communities.
Okay. Just a reminder, we're holding open GGRF-funded programs for the May revise, and we will deal with them comprehensively. So I'm sure they're wonderful programs. We know they are.
With that, I'll be brief. Matt Earhart,
yes.
Executive Director for YOLO Salon Air Quality Management.
Oh, good.
And we're here to support the program as well.
I'll bet you are.
Thank you.
Yes, so you should be. Welcome.
I'll also be brief. Matt Kloppenstein with the South Coast Air Quality Management District, also in support of the $40 million proposal. Thank you.
And Madam Chair, Bonnie Holmes-Jen with the American Lung Association in California, and we are, of course, supporting these programs. And just want to note, we did release our State of the Air report yesterday. Please take a look for it, which reinforces the public health dangers from air pollution. And I wanted to note specifically that the ARB has to work simultaneously to drive down criteria and greenhouse gases. It's essential for our clean air goals that they work on both fronts at the same time, and that we believe that the existing statutes and the governor's action clearly supports the work on super pollutants and on activities beyond 2020. We believe that's already very clear. And just want to put in a plug for the $40 million for black carbon with smoke.
Next, please.
Madam Chair and members, Erin Niemela representing Land O'Lakes. I realize I'm kind of dovetailing into a future conversation here, but we're asking that as you consider the funding today for the short-lived climate pollution strategy, that you take into account that there is really no clean tech retrofit for cows. We'd like to see a less stick and more carrot approach going forward. We think the state has a vested interest in keeping its dairies here. We have cleaner dairy here because we have stringent antibiotics regulation. We have the toughest organic standards in the nation. And so we're asking to just sort of flag the issue today of getting dairy digester funding to help dairies down the line to use more a carrot approach, because our dairy here is more environmentally safe than anywhere else. Thank you.
All right. Specific programs we aren't talking about today. Yes.
Tom Appleson, Bay Area Air District, echoing the comments of my colleagues in support. Wood smoke is an issue in both urban and rural areas. When we've got our highest PM 2.5 concentrations on cold, still winter nights, despite all of our diesel sources, wood smoke is the single greatest contributor.
Thank you. Welcome.
Madam Chair, members, John White with the Clean Power Campaign. A couple of thoughts on the budget items before you. First of all, we believe that AB 32 gave ARB the authority and direction to work on short-lived climate pollutants in the way it was drafted. It was part of the, in our mind,
about black carbon.
Should have been part of the short-term, near-term reduction. Second, we really disagree with the analysts siloing all these programs as if they don't relate to each other. There are co-benefits to reducing short-lived climate pollutants. There are air quality benefits to reducing GH3. The idea that we're going to split this up into all these different categories doesn't make sense. Lastly, we would point out that SB 350, Senator De Leon's bill, includes direction to the Air Resources Board to adopt near-term, to adopt 2030 climate targets for the electric sector. So that work is already ongoing. So we think this is an important set of steps to keep moving. While we can always benefit from further legislative direction, the original Health and Safety Code, the California Clean Air Act, AB 32, all speaks to these issues, and we don't need to micromanage in quite the way that's been suggested. Thank you.
Thank you. And
Dennis Albiani, talking on the short-lived climate pollutant issues on behalf of the California Association of Egg Farmers. excuse me, almond holders and processors in the California Grain and Feed Association. We affiliate our comments with the earlier folks that support the LAO recommendation to leave this open and not deal it with a trailer bill, and on the authority. On additional issues, we will talk about organics recycling in the future. I understand we've talked to all of you specifically. Is that something we should wait till after MEA revise then, the $100 million? Got it. I take the clear.
Amy Mago on behalf of the California Chamber of Commerce, also on the short-lived climate pollutant strategy. We do agree with the LAO's analysis of the cost of implementation account not necessarily being the appropriate funding source for this. We do believe that it should be held open and not dealt with in the trailer bill language. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I think what the recommendation is, we will I would suggest, I would move to approve as proposed, contingent upon passage of implementing statute for the short-lived climate pollutant strategy. And number 2, hold open all GGRF-funded proposals for the May revise. That includes wood smoke and everything else that we love that's in it, or that we don't love. All right, that's not part of the motion. So is there a motion?
I can move that, but I just want to note a caution. There are a lot of policies in AB 32. There's a scoping plan, there's hearings. Short-lived climate pollutants are certainly consistent and were discussed at great depth. If you want to go through every part of the scoping plan to make sure each individual part is in statute, that is a problem. That is a problem. And so I feel short-lived climate pollutants are indeed, obviously, the most potent greenhouse gas emissions. It's certainly discussed when in conjunction with black carbon and other kinds of concerns. We knew there would be implementing policies. The targets give that flexibility to CARB for looking at greenhouse gas emission reduction. No one can say these aren't greenhouse gas emissions. So I think we go down a slippery slope in all agencies everywhere when there's not only existing statute that'll continue on, but executive orders by both Governor Brown and Governor Schwarzenegger. This has been consistent on it. So I respectfully would like to approve those 3 items without the contingency language on SB 605, if that is possible. If it's not.
The motion was to approve as proposed, striking the trailer bill language and making it contingent upon the passage of an implementing statute, which is currently under discussion, and then continue to hold open all the GGRF-funded proposals. You have a problem with that?
Well, I'm just saying anything that is out there on proposal. I'm saying we should be able to develop regulations on short-lived climate pollutants. We don't know what will be in that particular bill at this time in its final form.
No, we don't.
And with the Assembly is a wild card.
Why don't we hold both open, both the issue of the short-lived climate pollutants as well as the GGR. Do you have any problem with holding open the GGRF-funded proposals?
No, no problem. I think that makes sense. Okay. So we see the total amount and how it...
Okay, let's hold open so we can determine what the best possible approach is if we're going to go through trailer bill versus contingent.
What did the Assembly do on that?
I don't think they did anything.
Okay.
They held open. All right, so we will hold open. We will hold open both items, short-lived climate pollutants as well as the GGRF-funded proposals, and we'll bring that back. May revise. All right, let's look at low-carbon transportation fuels.